Welcome to Blinkers Off with your hosts, Jared Welch and Aaron Halterman.
What is up? I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. It is Thursday, May 2nd, and this is a Kentucky Derby Blinkers Off. What's up, man?
What's up, everybody? Yeah, it is definitely a huge show. My goodness, we've had so many shows this week so far, but we got more to come, including this one. So this is the biggie, right? We had John on the Blinkers Off on Tuesday. Now we've got ours on Thursday here. It's getting exciting. This is the time of the week where it's like, you know what? All the handicapping is done.
Yeah,
the picks are in. Now you just get to watch them run.
It's there's definitely a weird feeling for us. I know, obviously we're always handicapping and kind of working, but our picks are in, right? A lot of people don't have to do that, where, we have to kind of give them out and then they're out there in the betting Bible, which is available now. But yeah, once you had that feeling of like all the contemplations of going back and forth and what am I going to do here, what am I do there, and how am I going to play the Derby and stuff, it's like, no, it's out there. Now I can just sit back and, it feels like we have like a couple days here where we actually can enjoy it as fans like we used to, now that the picks are out.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, weather is one thing that you got to adjust for, and we will adjust for, and we'll see what happens there. It's 50-50. I really believe that. The weather's hard to predict there in Louisville. And obviously, the S word, scratches, you never know when that's going to happen. So we'll keep an eye on that. But so far, just Encino so far. So we'll see what happens as we move along, because it's getting close, man. I mean, it's almost here.
It's here. I mean, we're on Thursday, and now you've got the Oaks tomorrow. The weather situation, Rob, is again, it seems like it's this way every year in some ways. It definitely looks like we're gonna have at least something to talk about tomorrow. That Friday looks worse than Saturday, but it could impact the track. I mean, but again, like one thing we've learned over the years is there's no sense of, I mean, how many times, Halterman, has there been cases where it's like, it's not a question of if, it's when and how much it's going to rain. And then what does it do? It doesn't rain. So yeah, I think it's important to kind of get an idea of like, oh yeah, if it rains, like, and if this happens, like these horses would scratch, like get an idea of like, okay, this might happen and here's how I might look at that. But for the most part, I handicap it just normal aside. I'm not going to go like, well, I really like this one and I like this one too, but this one likes the mud, so I'm going to play this one because I don't know if it's going to be muddy yet.
Yep. No, same. I mean, it's just one of those things. You can't worry about it until it happens. And like I said, you can have it in the back of your mind. But if somebody asked on Tuesdays, like, are you handicapping this with a sloppy track in mind? And the answer is no, because you don't know that it's going to be a sloppy track, and you don't know. So, okay, like say it rains Friday at 4 p.m. Let's just say, for example. Well, maybe like what? A couple of races will be sloppy, and then say it stops, and then it's not sloppy the rest of the time. Well, if you handicap the whole 27 races for a sloppy track, then you're not doing yourself any good. What you got to do is handicap it and then adjust if and when, that does happen. The forecast, I think it'd be a miracle if it doesn't rain at all based on what I'm looking at. But I told one person, I said, look, I know what the forecast says. I said the first Kentucky Derby I ever went to was in 2018. And they told us it was going to pour down rain all day Friday and be clear as can be on Saturday. And the exact opposite happened. Friday was beautiful, and Saturday it never stopped raining from the moment we woke up until after like the 13th race was over. So you just never know. It's kind of a tough to predict the rain in Louisville.
That is that's so true. Remember how that Friday, maybe it felt nicer because of the expectation of rain, but it was perfect. The day was absolutely perfect. And then Saturday, like you said, and it was funny about Saturday. The whole day, it was like, well, they say it's going to stop by 1 p.m. It's going to stop by 3. Well, I think it's going to stop before the Derby. No, it just kept pouring harder and harder.
I remember doing a local radio spot at like 11 o'clock. Let's say, I can't remember exactly, but 11 o'clock. And they're saying, boy, it doesn't look good on television. I said, yeah, but they say it's going to stop here around noon. And it just never did. It got worse and worse and worse as the day went on.
Yeah, it was fun times. But yeah, again, like at the end of the day, guys, there's no sense of worrying about it. One, because I mean, we don't know it's going to happen. And if it does rain, then it rains. Like we got to just adjust, and it's maybe not as fun, especially when you're there. All our suits were ruined that day. But if you're there, hey, you know what? It's part of it. Doesn't it feel like it rains more? Doesn't the Oaks or the Derby feel like it rains more than a lot of the other stakes races? I don't know. Maybe
Yes.
rain
Yes.
involved.
Yeah. Other than Oaklawn, it feels like we get it at Churchill almost every year. It's annoying, but guys, there's just not a whole lot you can do other than adjust when and if it happens.
We will, guys. We will go as we're going through these races. We will get an idea. We'll give you an idea. Okay. Like we'll kind of mention a few horses that we like that, if the races were to be off. And obviously, if you have the betting Bible, if you guys are getting the betting Bible, any kind of picks on the site, everything will be updated tomorrow. I imagine we'll be very busy tomorrow morning based off of what happens. So you're going to always make sure you go to the website, whether it's just to go to view the picks, go into your dashboard, download the recent Bible. We'll always send out an email when the Bible has been updated. So you'll get to make sure you subscribe to all our email channels, as well as check that dashboard and always look for that updated version. So because obviously scratches, and if you ever do see something where it's like the main horse is listed on the Bible and that horse is scratched, well, chances are, unless that horse was just scratched, you don't have the most recent Bible, because we always update that. If you guys are paying for it, especially something like the Derby and the Oaks, we're going to make sure you guys have the most recent version. So make sure you check that out. Again, we'll do Fridays and Saturday updates pending any major changes. But yeah, guys, if you guys just tuned in, Magic Mike was just on here before. They did the pick 5 at Churchill Downs, of course, on Derby Day. Of course, talked a lot about the Derby. So if you want to get Sandwiches and Magic's picks, make sure you go back and watch that after this one. But let's not waste any time, Halterman. Today's show, we're going to do exactly what you guys are here for, right? We're going to look at Saturday's $5 million $5 million Kentucky Derby, and Friday's $1.5 million Longines Kentucky Oaks, both, of course, at Churchill Downs. Let's go. We're going to kick things off for the Oaks, being that it is Friday first. We will kick things off with the Oaks. We'll go through the Oaks. And again, this might be the one that is got the biggest shot at being impacted by the weather, I would say. I mean, as we predict right now, but who knows? Let's see here.
One thing while you're setting it up, if this is true, which there's no way to know if this is actually what's going to happen, 0.6 rainfall on Friday, 0.4 on Saturday. If that actually is what happens, then there's nothing to even think about. That's not enough. So
no,
you're looking at the downpours and just the heavy rains that'll affect it. But this track won't be affected if it's just light rains.
No, I mean, unlike some tracks, right? Like we're pretty good about and obviously with this kind of race, and with this kind of weather, kind of what do you want to say? This weather, like we know it's coming, so they're going to be ready. It's going to be they're going to be prepared. So I'm not too concerned about it. Again, guys, it's like you can sit. It's almost like you can sit there and worry about it, or we can just wake up tomorrow and see what happens and go from there. But it's good to have a plan. We'll take a look at that plan, of course, and how we might kind of pivot from that if we need to. All right, Friday at Churchill Downs, race number 11. That, of course, is the Grade 1, $1.5 million Kentucky Oaks for 3-year-old fillies going a mile and an eighth. This is it, Halterman. This is, I mean, the Derby is the Derby, but the Oaks is the Oaks, and we've seen some serious horses come through and win the Kentucky Oaks, and obviously it's a kind of the beginning of their career sometimes for some of these superstar 3-year-olds. And, man, I'll tell you what, man, I know the Derby is the Derby, but we've got for an Oaks division that seemed kind of scattered this year, it kind of feels like we've gotten the best of what we had, right, to show up here seemingly healthy, seemingly good. Even a horse like Ways and Means, who has been off for a long time, back kind of into her groove there. It's a nice field, a full field. The one Tappet Janelli is scratching or has scratched. That's why you don't see her the number one there on the screen. But dude, take a look at these. These are from Twin Spires. They're updated live odds that are current odds. 5-2 on Torpedo Anna. 5-2, getting bet hard. 5-1 on Just FYI. Tarifa at 6-1. I know it's early, but thoughts on the field, thoughts on the early odds.
Yeah, I don't think the early odds are going to reflect what you see there too much. So but we'll kind of take it for a grain of salt right now. But yeah,
Peak had a little bet there early on this morning.
Yeah. So but there's no doubt there's a lot of play on Torpedo Anna. I know she's getting a lot of talk from her trainer, especially there at Churchill Downs. And listen, I mean, she ran very well off the layoff at Oaklawn. Not that I don't respect her, but that's going to be a tough price to take. There's no doubt about it. Now let's go to, the rest of the field here. And look, I debated on this race for a long time. I looked at this race forever. Took me probably longer to pick one here than any other one. So I thought it got really competitive late, because all these horses kind of just came back and they all looked decent enough. And then Leslie's Rose kind of rounded back into form after losing form. Gosh, but then the post positions are really bad for some of these horses. At the end of the day, I think Just FYI is sitting on a big race. Second off the layoff. We've seen her capabilities, before. I thought off the layoff, she ran very good in the Ashland, and I think she's ready to take a next step forward. So I played Just FYI on top. Look, she's now in the 12 hole, even though she's number 13. She's going to break out of the 12 now. And that's where she won the Breeders' Cup. So, maybe that's a sign. I don't know. But I just really feel like Just FYI is sitting on a very big race.
Yeah, dude, I'll be honest. I went into this, Just FYI had just lost her first loss and of course was off the layoff. And I thought, you know what, maybe I'm going to go into this not trying to beat her, right? And Leslie Rose was obviously kind of near and dear to my heart, right, Kevin? So a horse that I had I thought that effort in the Ashland was fantastic. And then I looked at a bunch of other ones, and I just kept on kind of coming back to Just FYI. I just I remember leaving the Breeders' Cup that day when she had won the juvenile fillies, and I thought, after all that, after all the who's who and this horse is better and this, it's like, actually Just FYI just kind of did what she does and wins. Like she just is clearly better. And so I kind of have that feeling with her here that yes, she got beat in the Ashland, but I do think it's an opportunity for us to get a better price, because it's very clear. Like when Pletcher brings one back, for instance, with Leslie's Rose, like they're going to win, or at least that's what his intentions are, right? They're planning on to win. When a guy like Bill Mott brings a horse back off that layoff, it's not as automatic as Pletcher's are. It's more like, I know I need to get her for the Oaks, so we're running her here for a setup there. So she was short. She wasn't quite geared up. I don't take any negatives with that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And if you remember, she scratched out of a race at Gulfstream on Fountain of Youth Day. And I think that is kind of the thing where it's like, I'm sure he wanted to have her pop in the Ashland. And then when that happened with the scratch, it was just like, oh boy, now I'm not going to get her tuned up for the Ashland. And then this is the spot, ultimately the ultimate gold. So I'm sure he would want another prep race. I'm sure he would have wanted 2 races before this, but he didn't get it, and so that's just how it goes sometimes. So look, I'm with you. Like, I think this is a horse. She kind of reminds me of some of those great Bill Mott trained fillies, and they all just kind of look the same. They're big, they're powerful. They've got a nice turn of foot coming for home. And I think this one's the same way. It's just going to be the biggest thing for me is like, okay, we're from the 13 hole, 12 hole. What kind of trip is it going to be? Are we going to get hung wide? Is she going to have to be, quote unquote, 2, 3, 4 links better than the rest of the field? Or will they be able to kind of work out a trip with her? I think the trip is concerning. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I thought the 5 and the 8, obviously, of the contenders, won the draw. Not only do they have perfect post, but all those Leslie's Rose, Just FYI, Ways and Means, Power Squeeze. they all got outside, so that is, it's crazy how they all kind of drew right there in a line.
Any conversation about, I guess our pretty woman does come in with, Asmussen Rosario. I guess one more scratch would get Candied in for Pletcher and Saez, which I guess he would have, there have to be a decision to be made there. But any thoughts on either one of those getting in? I guess our pretty woman is in, but with the other one getting in potentially, is there any impact for you?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Our pretty woman is a horse that, look, at the end of the day, this is the morning line favorite, at least for this race, was Tarifa. And I'm not going to say she almost beat her because that would be wrong, but our pretty woman ran within 3/4 of a length of her. Now, she sat an easy pace that day and got caught late. And I think the pushback from people be, well, she never should have got caught. However, that was her first try against Stakes Company. That was, the third start of her career, only the third start of her career. She's undefeated coming into it. So, yeah, I kind of agree with the opinion of, well, that was probably a race she should have won. She had that easy lead, but it's still, she got ran down and beat narrowly by a horse that's the at least the morning line favorite for the Kentucky Oaks. So that is part of it as well. But I think at 15-1, she makes more sense than a lot of the horses that are in the field that are longer shots. So, and then with Candied, I think you look at Candied, and I think a lot of people are like, well, the pace is going to really melt down here because it does look like it's going to be fast. And if it's fast, I mean, she's going to close and beat a lot of them, right? I don't know if she can beat them all, but in second off the layoff, and I kind of heard Todd Pletcher talk about this, where they really like her, and they should. I mean, she's pretty good, and she really hasn't ran a race other than the last one off the layoff where you really scratch your head and be, I don't know what that was all about. But I think the pace meltdown is going to have to be there. This horse is a little bit screwy, just a bit. But if it's a pace meltdown and she improves second off the layoff, if she gets in, I think she's one that's a little bit more intriguing than, say, half this field, to be honest.
Yeah, with our pretty woman, I think the fact of those first two races as well. I mean, this is a horse that's wanting to go long from the get go, or at least Asmussen's tried, and those first two races under her belt, both in sloppy conditions as well. So, I mean, if there is a horse, you guys asked for it earlier, if we want to talk about horses that might be interesting, that would be one for sure. Getting in, definitely being forwardly placed in this race. And yeah, I mean, again, like you said, it nearly beat Tarifa, who obviously is going to get a lot of play in here as well. A lot of talk in the chat about Power Squeeze, which deservedly so. That's one horse that I kind of struggled with, just in terms of because I'll be honest, Ways and Means is pretty high up on my list. And Power Squeeze ran right by her last time out. And so I get it, right? You're getting 12-1 on Power Squeeze on the morning line, 15-1 right now. Do you think, could this be one of those horses that you're you kind of are for almost saying, well, that was good, but these other horses weren't geared up, but or maybe this horse just continues to win?
I think Power Squeeze is, she's a contender. I think the debate you're going to have to, and you laid it out pretty well, the debate you're going to have have in your mind, it's well, did she go get Ways and Means, or was the Ways and Means trip not that good and she wasn't quite cranked? And, if she runs better, she won't get her. I'm really on the fence about Ways and Means. I think she's super talented. I want to make sure I say that, but how far does she want to go, I think, is a question mark. And maybe you kind of saw that with Power Squeeze, right? And you saw Power Squeeze able to get her that last 16th of a mile, because maybe Ways and Means was a little bit tired because he just doesn't want to go that far. So I think that is something you gotta just kind of debate in your mind, or was Ways and Means a little short? I mean, that's kind of the two questions you got to ask yourself. But look, Power Squeeze has put up a bunch of wins in a row here, and another one, if the pace melts down, why can't this horse win? I mean, she's going to be coming with a nice closing kick, no doubt.
All right, so how are we going to do this? First, let's take a look at some of these horses. I guess we can just go to the Jin. Do you think you stop me if you're having any interest in these horses? Jin sitting there at 20-1. Where's my ring at 9-1?
That horse is interesting.
Where's my ring?
Yeah, I mean, coming on, right? Coming out of that Gazelle at Aqueduct, and look, I mean, won it as a maiden, but I've been winning or not winning, but running and stakes races, pretty much the whole time here and there throughout her 2 and 3-year-old season. So she's a bit interesting, but I don't like that 9-1 price. I'd want double digits. So hopefully she floats up again.
Yeah, with the way that these odds are kind of scattered right now, wouldn't be surprised if it changes a little bit. Regulatory risk at 32-1. So talk about a horse getting no play. And about Torpedo Anna at 5-1 morning line, but down to 5-2. Don't know that you're going to see, I don't know if that horse can go off the favorite, but it might go off pretty close to favorite. And we know, or at least you and I know, how we feel about betting McPeak at a short price, certainly in a grade 1 race like this.
It would be tough for me to swallow that price. He has been able to win when he gets a great filly, like a Swiss Skydiver. I know she didn't win the Kentucky Oaks, but she won huge races, obviously. So as favorites. So you look at this horse. I don't think she should be 5-2, but she was awfully good. She was awfully good at Oaklawn Park off of a long layoff. So, if she moves forward off of that, maybe she is the one to beat in here. I kind of tend to think she might not run that type of race again. Maybe ran her best race a little too soon. We'll see.
Yeah, that race is hard to look past because that was impressive for sure off the layoff, and you would think you would get better. You also wonder, you remember how good wet paint was last year over there, and just really didn't do much in the Oaks, and you kind of wondered if maybe she wasn't who she'd been facing and the competition maybe. And I don't know that, or I think you could probably say something similar with this horse here. So we'll see. I think just more generally, I'm okay with letting her beat me because it's McPeak at a short price, and that just more times than not works. Number 6, Lemon Muffin at 16-1. Fiona's Magic at 36-1. Tarifa, again, 6-1. Got to think that's not going to hold up there. 7-2 favorite was at the beginning of this thing. So got to think she's going to take some play. Is there what's the deal with her? Where are you at with Tarifa?
I'm shocked she's not getting a whole lot of play. To me, she makes sense. 3 straight wins that have been pretty good. I think she's I kind of just I think she's good. I don't know that she can raise her game up to another level. And I think that's what it's going to have to take in this one. I'm not 100% sure who she's beaten down there at Fairgrounds either. So that's kind of a question mark for me. But look, honestly, this is, if you get her at 6-1, that's a great price. I cannot, talk you off of that horse at 6-1. And I think she's probably the deserving morning line favorite based on the races this season. She's been about as good as anybody.
Yeah, I mean, my problem with her, and again, it's so stupid, right? Because it's what has she done wrong? At least my process in my head is that you kind of like you mentioned with Torpedo Anna, it's have we seen the best of what she is? And she's been good, right? There's no doubt about it. She's won every race but one. And that was in November, and that Denim and Pearls, by the way, beat her, who's on the going to race this weekend. So there's that, but hasn't lost this year, has been pretty dominant, has gotten better with each start. Here I am sitting there kind of trying to talk myself into picking her. I don't know. To me, I'm wondering if we've kind of seen, it's she's a really good filly, but maybe, we've seen the best that she is. And one of these other ones, like the Just FYI, who's kind of coming into the race at the right time, ways and means, if you like her. Even Leslie's Rose in some capacity, you could make a case getting better. Maybe Tarifa is just one of these horses is going to jump up and beat her. But I think she'll run well. I mean, she's ran well every time.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely you're going to see the horse be in position and have a chance. And you're going to think at least some point in the race, most likely this horse is going to get ready to roll here. Right. So, but will she have that last? To me, it's I'm not sure she's good enough to again, I think you're going to have to raise that game a little bit. I don't think she's quite good enough to do it. But at the end of the day, though, I would not be shocked if she wins because, like I said, she's got a great resume. It's just every time I watch her, it's I get really good, not great vibes from her.
Everland at 43-1, into Champaign 33-1. Ways and Means. We got to talk about Ways and Means a little bit here at 8-1 currently, 5-1 morning line. This is a horse that, if you guys tuned in to John White's interview on Blinkers Off earlier this week, go make sure you watch that episode. You have to watch that episode, the one right prior to this. But we talked a little bit about the Oaks as well, and he really likes Ways and Means. And listen, it's hard to disagree with him because that debut, Halterman and I, we were there, we remember it. She was freaky good, and you kind of knew at that point, like, okay, this is going to be a superstar horse. And then the spin away, she still runs her race. She gets injured in the race, so that might have hampered her obviously winning. Is gone, right? Like, she's just off, like, completely out of it. You don't even know when you're going to see her again. And now, boom, she shows up in the Gulfstream Park Oaks. Really ran a nice race off of that kind of layoff. Got second. Mentioned earlier, Power Squeeze went running by her. But you got to think Ways and Means is going to get better off of that effort. If nothing else, just without, going to be just tighter. What do you think of her here? Going straight from off the bench, gone to Gulfstream Park Oaks to the Kentucky Oaks.
Tough ask, but obviously the horse has an abundance of talent. And honestly, like, you just don't see Chad Brown like push him all that often like this. I mean, he's pushing forward here. I thought this would kind of, when the injury happened last summer, I thought, well, maybe next summer we'll see her again, kind of, or maybe Belmont, Aqueduct, I guess, gear her up and get her up ready for Saratoga. But no, I mean, you look at this horse, the 3 races have all been good, but the problem is she's only won once. And I know she kind of got hurt. She got hurt in that race Saratoga last year, and horrible trip, really not the desired trip, but still lost. And then again, you go back and watch the Gulfstream Park Oaks. She turns for home, and she looks like a horse that's going to win. And she got caught, right? So she's going to have to move forward. There's no doubt about it. My biggest thing, I think she is extremely talented. If the race was a mile, I would feel a lot more confident. I'm just not sold that a 1.1 miles is going to be the absolute perfect distance for her, or going to be the distance where we see that big progression from her. The other side of it is look, Chad Brown said this is one of the best dirt fillies I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
He's not dumb. So if she wins tomorrow, am I going to be shocked? No, because she has shown that brilliance in her races. Her debut was fantastic. And if he can get her back to that kind of form, and she does enjoy the distance tomorrow, she will be very tough to beat. But there's too many question marks. Now, the good news is she is 8-1, right? So
exactly, yeah,
you're kind of getting paid for those question marks. That's what that means.
Yeah, if she's 5-2 or 3-1, then you're having to take a big leap there. But 8-1, that's why she's 8-1, right? Because if she had rattled off, the spin away win and the Gulfstream Park Oaks win, even off the layoff, she would be way lower odds. So you're kind of paying for the what ifs. I'm still, like Mary says, with and I know a lot of people agree, so I'm not singling her out, but I don't know. I understand why people think she might be distance limited. I think she could be as well, but I also don't think there's any proof to that yet. So other than the fact that she seemed a little short in the Gulfstream Park Oaks, practical joke, not necessarily known for banging out 1.1 miles, mile and a quarter horses. So it's like, I get it. But again, I also don't think there's anything, there's excuses for her. The other thing I can't get past is, like, her number on debut was fantastic. Her number in the Gulfstream Park Oaks was fantastic. Like, I just think she is a elite horse. Again, distance might be the concern, but I think Chad's probably thinking the same thing, right? He knows that she's a superstar type of horse. Will she get the distance? We'll find out. But I think when you have a horse like this and she's right, you got to run her. So
I think just one last thing on her. Kevin brought up in the comments he was confused with the ride last time out, and if you watch it, got in all kinds of trouble, and then it was almost like she just the jock just said, "The hell with it, we're getting to the front," because she was sitting okay, and then he made a big middle move, got her to the front. when I watched that back, I think it was overconfidence or just not having a lot of fear of your opponent. One of those two things. I kind of think in Irad's who was on him? That was Gaffleon that was on him.
Irad was on him and
it was Irad. Yeah, it was Irad. Those aren't. I think in his mind, he thought, all right, we've gotten in trouble. I'm not messing with horses. I'm going to just send her. She's good enough. She'll win. I'm not worried about that. I think in his head, he thought the only way I'm going to get her beat if I get her in more trouble. So let's just go get it. That's what it looked like to me. Obviously, you can't get inside the heads of these little guys. So who knows? But that's what it looked like to me.
Well, it's interesting because you have this horse has had 2 different riders so far. Ways and Means had Pratt on debut, and in the spin away, he's obviously on Tarifa, and then had Irad in the Gulfstream Park Oaks. He goes over to Leslie's Rose. Now you get T-Gaff, first time riding her. So take that for what it's worth, but it is Chad Brown. You usually will see one of those big time jockeys. Not to say T-Gaff isn't, but you know what I mean. Let's go to Leslie's Rose now. I'll skip over because we talked about Power Squeeze. We talked about Just FYI. Leslie's Rose, who Irad is riding and has ridden every start of her career, so it makes sense for Todd Pletcher. Formerly number 1, our first round draft pick in our fantasy league, Leslie's Rose has been somewhat tricky, I guess. Had that maiden special weight, was awesome. Came back, won the allowance, wasn't ultra impressive, but won. Came back in the Devona Dale and was not that good. Let's be honest. Gotten beat by Into Champagne and Fiona's Magic, both horses in here. And then the Ashland dude, she was 9-1, almost 10-1 for good reason. And she just was awesome. She was dominant in that race. She looked like the part of the 1.15 or whatever it is, $1 million horse that she was purchased for. Where are you at with Leslie's Rose? I mean, she is 7-1 currently. Now you're not going to get 7-1, but if that's any indication, maybe you get the 4 to 5-1 on her.
I think you're going to because of the post and because of just that inconsistent pattern that you see. I am squarely on the fence with this horse. I thought, like when you drafted her that night, I thought you're crazy, number 1. But then number 2, I thought, that was a very impressive debut. I remember it. And I thought that was very good. And I thought her second race wasn't that good. She won, yes, but I didn't think it was that good. And I closed the book on her after the third race. I thought, okay, good maiden, not very good in her second race. It was a win. Third race was just pathetic. I mean, it was terrible. And then she runs probably the most impressive race, debatable, but probably one of the most impressive races in this crop at Keeneland.
Yep.
I don't know who she is. If she's that horse, you're going to win. I mean, you're not you, but Leslie Rose is going to win. But if those other 3 versions of her show up, probably not going to win this race. So she's very fascinating to me.
How close were you to picking her, and how close or how different would you feel if she drew in the 8th, where Tarifa is at or wherever? Like, would you be more inclined to pick her?
Probably, yeah. I think so. Everything was kind of, razor close for me. So maybe a better post for her or just FYI, who I end up picking. But either one of them get a better post, it becomes a little bit easier. But at the end of the day, we're going to talk about fierceness in a minute, right? And 3 of his 5 races have been fantastic, right? When you look at this horse, and only 1 of the 4 races have been fantastic. Now, her debut was good, but I wouldn't call it like world beating. But yeah, so that's kind of where I was at. It's like I haven't seen it from her enough, but at the same time, the race in the Ashland was good enough to where I'm like, I don't really care about the post. She's not knocking me out of a multi. She's not knocking me out of an exactor try. I've got her on those tickets. End of the day, I just couldn't quite get her up there to win because I do have so much respect for Just FYI and the race I think she's capable of running here. But look, I can say that all I want. Leslie's Rose absolutely embarrassed Just FYI last time out. There's no way around it. She ran right by her. So if you're going to look at that race and use that logic, how can I say anything? But yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when you look at this race because if you like just FYI, Yeah, well, she just got last time we saw her, she was getting smoked by Leslie's Rose. If you like ways and means, well, last time we saw her, she was getting smoked by Power Squeeze. So it's like it's kind of a tricky thing here because if you like, you're banking on the fact that these horses are going to improve or regress depending on who it is in this next start. So last thing, and Christopher kind of brought it up, so I wanted to. I was thinking of this question before we ended the Oaks discussion, but I wanted to talk about kind of the speed to the outside of Leslie Rose, but just more in general, Halterman, how because you have so many of these kind of the I don't want the legit, obviously the 5 and the 8 on the inside there are kind of are good spots, but with ways and means, just FYI, Leslie's Rose. Now you got to include the 14 or the 15 horse, Our Pretty Woman. With a lot of these horses that are contenders to the all drawn to the outside, plenty of them have speed. How do you expect some of these horses to kind of get out of the gate and get in position? Do you think we're going to see kind of could the horse like Leslie's Rose, for instance, kind of get squeezed a little bit when you have a horse like Our Pretty Woman, who's we know is going to try to get to the lead?
It could or couldn't. I mean, if we're going to sit here and try to predict how each horse is going to break, it's a waste of time. You just don't know. I mean, I've seen horses break great 6 times and the 7th time they don't, or break terrible a few times and then break perfect. That I think at the end of the day, that's all just luck of the draw. I'm not worried about Leslie's Rose anymore now than I was when there was nobody to her outside. Because sometimes when there's no horse to the outside, horses will run to space and they'll break and they'll run, and their first 3 or 4 strides are right towards the outside rail. I've seen that happen a lot. So you do not ever know what's going to happen when they get to those gates as far as loading, braking, stuff like that. It's a lot of luck involved. Look at Sierra Leone in the Bluegrass. Horse never, ever had trouble loading, and they couldn't get him to load that day. And they haven't had any trouble loading him like when they quote unquote practice with him at Churchill. So Chad Brown was just like, look, they're horses and it's weird. Like, we don't have an explanation. He even said, he's like, I asked the handlers, is like, was he upset? And they're like, no. Yep. Like, was he throwing a fit? No. He said he literally just would not go in the gate, but it wasn't bothering him. But you look at his other races, he just didn't have it. So what I'm trying to say is, we can sit here like people were like, well, Epic Ride's going to screw up Fierceness now. I mean, he could, but so could the 18, the 19, the 16, the 12 could take 2 steps and then veer to the right. You don't know that first 50 yards out of that gate, it's a crapshoot for everybody. So, end of the day, it is what it is. Like, could she get pinched? Yes, she could, but so could 12, 10, 8, 2, 5, name it, right?
Yeah, on top of the fact that if it is a sloppy track of some sort, then that's a whole other concern with horses getting squished and mud and all the shit. So, all right, let's get to the picks here. We'll get to the Kentucky Derby next. I want to start, Halterman. I'm going to stick with number 13, just FYI. I'll be honest with you guys. Like, I'm not the weather concern does not concern me here. I think she's inspired by Justify. He can run on anything. We've seen her win in the Frizette. She won in the slop. I don't think that there's any concern whatsoever for me if the track is sloppy. I would even further and go. I also have a pretty high opinion of ways and means in the race. Again, hasn't tried the slop, but he's sired by Practical Joke, who's done well in the slop as well. His sired horses that have ran well. So again, I'm not too I don't have much riding on the fact of like, oh, if it's sloppy, I don't know how I feel about that. I feel just fine either way.
Yeah. No, I'm with you too. I went just FYI on top. Yeah. People right off the bat there were kind of asking about, horses, who's going to like the slop. And you certainly can go to that Champagne. And she was fantastic over it. And listen, Tarifa was very good over it as well. So there's 2 horses that are our main contenders that have had that slop form. But look, I think at the end of the day, if just FYI got what I think she got out of that race, if she can take a step forward, which she should, I think she's going to be tough. Going to have to work out a trip, no doubt. But like I say, if it rains, no big deal. And look, I mean, I think anytime you see a horse by Justify, and it's raining, you kind of smile because we've seen what that horse can do in bad conditions, and it's pretty good. So it would make sense that his offspring could, and we've kind of seen that. So yeah, I'm with Just FYI here. I'm hoping for that improvement, and I'm acknowledging it is a very tough race. I think it is certainly a race where you could run very well and get second, third, fourth, because kind of like Lou kind of mentioned, maybe Leslie's Rose is just a beast at 2 turns, and Just FYI could run a very good second, and Leslie's Rose gets her or anything.
Yeah, it kind of feels a little bit too like this is a race that we're going to see. I don't know. Like this is I think down the road, especially a horse like, Ways and Means, who I think is kind of freaky, like whether it be going long or one turn, if it ends up being that, like Just FYI, obviously your 2-year-old champion, Leslie's Rose, we'll see, Tarifa, right? Like this is a serious group, and I think we're going to see some, even if they don't win, like you said, maybe they run well, don't win. Like I think we're going to see some serious horses come out of this as we head into the summer, late spring and summer racing.
Yep. No, I agree. I think this is a group that got going late, and I never really handicapped in Oaks where so many horses were making their second start off of layoffs. It was just kind of a weird deal. So you're right. I mean, and that kind of tells you, okay, that we're going to see some really nice horses coming up summer, even after this, because a lot of these horses just haven't ran a lot so far this year.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, dude. It's like I can remember not that long ago thinking, wow, like I thought the Derby was a mess, like this Oaks is a disaster. And now I'm like, oh, I like a bunch of these horses. So
yeah,
it's kind of how it goes. All right, guys, there are our picks for Friday's Kentucky Oaks. Let's head to Saturday's racing. Of course, look no further than the Kentucky Derby. This is going off as race number 12 on Saturday, Churchill Downs, $5 million purse. 3-year-olds going 1.25 miles. What more do you want? It's the run for the roses. It's the fastest 2 minutes in sports, whatever you want to call it. We've got a field of 20 as of now. We're not going to jinx it, but a field of 20. Encino has scratched the 9, and we of course scratch in the 21, which is Epic Ride. So all 20, at least 20 in the gate so far. As we look at the odds here, I'll kind of scan through. This is way too big to fit on the screen. That's what she said. Fierceness at 2-1, getting bet hard here. Forever Young taking some money at 8-1, 8-1 on Catching Freedom, 5-1 on Sierra Leone. Everyone else has got pretty big odds, but thoughts so far, kind of the initial thoughts as we start to digest and look into picking a winner here in the Derby.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not a whole lot of surprise with those odds. I think that's kind of, it's not where they're going to land, but you don't really see anything and go, well, that's crazy. I think you kind of could predict some of this, but again, it's very early. Look, I mean, we've talked about this on so many shows, so many times, and it's just one of those things. And Mike Somich said it about 30 minutes before we got on the air. He said, there's not very many derbies that you look at and go, well, you look at time form. Fierceness is the fastest horse. You look at Byers. Fierceness is the fastest horse. Brisnet, Thoroughgraph, Rags, all of it. Every one of them, his best race is faster than the rest of them. And so when that happens, it makes it tough right off the bat. And then you go, okay, well, what beats him? Well, he doesn't show up. Well, obviously, and he has a track record of 2 out of the 5 races he's run. He didn't, and there's no way around it. And he ran a race in the Holy Bull that was just, it's disgusting to go watch it. But if you believe that it's kind of bumping that has caused it, and that's been the common denominator in both races, and I don't think anybody truly knows if that was totally it, but I think that's the speculation. He drew the post that's going to help him the most, like, outside posts, it gives him the best chance of not getting bumped. I got a text yesterday. I said, aren't you worried that Stronghold might come in on him? I said, with this horse, the first 50 yards of the race, you're worried about everything. It is literally going to be the most stressful situation the first 10 seconds of the race.
Yeah.
I said, he's going to lose it right there. I said, I don't care who's outside or inside of him. I'm scared to death. Yes. But at the end of the day, the percentage chances of him not getting in any kind of trouble is helped by the farther outside he could go. So I just got to think if he breaks well, he's going to win. That's where I'm at with it.
I mean, that's I went into this and I also was watching the Magic Mike show earlier, and that's something that like kind of Magic had alluded to is like, yeah, I went into it like totally planning on, okay, like I'm going to beat Fierceness. I'm trying to figure out who it is though. And then the more I've gone into it, I've gone stronger onto Fierceness. And I think it's because you just start to digest all these other races from these other horses, and you watch his, and they're two different categories. There's, well, obviously when you're talking about Fiercest on, there's nothing close in this race, and that's one thing. And obviously love John White to death. We're going to disagree on opinions, all the time we do. But that's one thing that I disagreed on. Like, I do not think that if I asked him, if Fierceness runs his best race, do you think someone else can still beat him?
No.
And I think that is an unequivocally no.
No.
There's no one in here, even if they run their best race, like they run an improved race, I don't think it can match up to Fierceness' best effort. So it really comes down to, guys, if you want to do yourself a favor and go watch, what year was Nyquist, Halterman?
Nyquist would have been 2016, right? Yeah.
Year after Pharaoh, I think, right?
That was 16. 16.
Okay, so 16. Go watch Nyquist, okay? He drew, correct me if it was like 12 or 13, I think is what he was out of. So pretty similar to where Fierceness, because Fierceness, of course, scratches him down to get to the 16 hole coming out. Go watch Nyquist. Go watch it. Like, that's the picture perfect trip you want to see out of Nyquist. Breaks well, is wide, gets in a position, doesn't necessarily get to the lead, but gets in a good position, tracks them the whole way around. When the running comes, game over. He wins. And to me, that's what needs to happen. That's if he, last year you and I were on tap at Trice, and we were so nervous about the first. Well, really, until they got to the first, the wire the first time, how he was going to break and what position. And we were just, it was like, oh, he's in a good spot. No. And then it's like, oh, shit. Now
he broke perfect.
He broke perfect, and then it's still too slow. So our whole fear of him not breaking well was like, oh, he broke. And then it's like, oh, no. It's like, it felt like sand, trying to grab a handful of sand, just slipping through your fingers.
Is that not the truth? Because that is a great way to put it. Because he was, if you go watch the first of it, when he broke, you're like, oh, he's going to sit mid. He's going to sit mid pack. And this one by one, they all kept passing him. And we're sitting there like, why? Why are you letting them all pass you? You had the position. No.
I know.
What are you doing? Yeah.
I know. It was. And then they get to the wire the first, and you're just like, oh, no. This is bad. Yep. So I say that not to bring up bad thoughts, but I say that because it's very similar this year with Fierceness, that first stretch there, when they get it from the gate or from the break to the first starting line and or the first time they cross the finish line and into the first turn, what he's going to do, where he's going to be. Because I think you'll know, right? Like if there's been some trouble, some issues, he got squeezed, he got bumped, he's now in 5th or 8th or 10th, you're like, oh no, this is over.
Now, the one thing I will say, I totally agree with everything you said, but I'm going to play devil's advocate for a minute. The one thing is, we don't really know why he didn't show up those 2 races, right? We're just trying to think of reasons. We listen to the trainer, we watch the races, and you kind of see, you try to pick out similarities. That's all you could do. I think back to what John White, when he always talks about Secretariat, when he got 3rd in the race before the Kentucky Derby, he had a tooth problem, right? He had a toothache, and that's the kind of the legend. That's what caused it. All this stuff we assume, it could have just been the horse. Something was wrong with him that day. That's racing too, right? So the one thing I keep thinking is like, what if he doesn't need everything to go perfect, right? What if he had a little something bothering him, and he just, when he has little things bother him, he doesn't run. I mean, that also the flip side of it is that's terrifying, that halfway down the race, if everything's going perfect and we're counting our money and he still doesn't run,
I know.
then we're gonna be like, oh, okay.
I mean, that's possible with him.
Yeah, and I do want to mention this again one more time. I've been on record of this forever. The champagne is so far, I don't care. It's a long time, and that was trouble from the start. The Holy Bull, I will never get over it, and I understand that he got bumped around, but it was so early, and he recovered so beautifully.
Yeah,
that was the problem.
You're a time form guy. Do you have any cares at all about this pace? Basically, he's saying is like that he has not experienced like a super hot pace yet, and now he will experience a hot pace.
Let me pull him up here. I've got the race pulled up. I will kind of analyze more of what you're saying here. Hold on. Let me get to him specifically. There's 17 horses. There you go. Yeah, it doesn't look like he's had any kind of hot pace. He did. The Breeders' Cup Juvenile was pretty hot, or was the hottest one where he was behind. The Florida Derby was, 129 early pace figures. He was running them.
Yeah.
So that was pretty hot, and he was actually setting them. But yeah, he's never really had pressure. Honestly, if the only like runaway race was the Florida Derby, I would think he's complete fool's gold. Totally. I keep going back to that Breeders' Cup Juvenile. That was a really good field. He dusted a really nice horse in Muth, who would probably be the second choice in the race if he was here.
And you might pick, by the way.
Yeah, because he's good and he's consistent. This is a big difference between fierceness. But you just go back, rewatch the race. He sat behind. He wasn't tugging to go. And then Muth came up to his hip and he took off from that horse. Just dusted him.
Yeah.
Again, when you go back and look at that data point, and then he does it again in the Florida Derby, you kind of just sit there and go, look, that. I get that because a lot of people are like, the Florida Derby was a terrible race. True. The Breeders' Cup Juvenile was not. Sometimes it is, right? If he would have beat Corniche, let's say, what are the reasons? It's like, I don't care. Who cares? He beat horses that are good. They've come back to win. And again, Muth, I really think would be right here with a logical chance to win. He dominated the Florida Derby. He beat a horse in Just Steel that people like because they like Just Steel because he ran so well against Muth. That Breeders' Cup Juvenile, I keep going back to it and go, good field, set off the pace, romped.
Yeah, I mean, that, like you said, it was not only mentioned, like, he beat a bunch of comeback winners, including Muth. Like Timberlake, I know Timberlake is out and whatever, but like he won. He came back and won. That field itself that day was very, very good. Mm-hmm. In the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and especially Muth. Like, and it's it. Like, I thought that was interesting too. Like, that, isn't hilarious that the Baffert lovers, including the Baffert owner, right? Mm-hmm. Zidane saying like, basically, like, this is like this Derby doesn't really count because if we were in there, we would win. And it's like, okay, well, if that's the case, then like, don't you have to love fierceness? I think people we're too strongly. Like, if you took out, and again, big ifs, but if you took out the Champagne, you took out the Holy Bull, this horse would be like 3-5 here in this race,
Dude, if you just took out the Holy Bull, if you just won the Holy Bull by 3.
Yep. That's it. That's the one, right?
Yeah.
And I think people that, a lot of the comments I've gotten, and again, he could lose. Like, I'm not going to, he's that kind of horse this year. Every horse in the race has something about them that could cause them to lose. But the one thing that gets me, it's like, well, he's not going to have an easy lead this time. And then anybody that says that, again, just go back and watch the Juvenile. That's all I ask. Now, again, who knows what happens? But that race, he wasn't on the lead. That race, he got up and tested by a really good horse in Muth. And he said, nope, see ya. Mm-hmm. The Florida Derby, he was on the lead, and he inherited the lead, and he took it, and he went gate to wire, and it was no question. But I don't think he needs to do it. It's just that's kind of how it happened. So,
yep.
I just, again, you want me to pick a Derby winner? And it's just like it came as simple as like, well, who is the best horse in the race? Like, I don't think it's even remotely questionable that it's Fierceness. Now, how his odds are and how he breaks and all that stuff, that's of course out of our hands. But I could not sit here and be like, I'm picking, Honor Marie. I do like Honor Marie quite a bit, and be like, and then Honor Marie just get absolutely waxed by Fierceness because you're like, you idiot. Like, how did you pick against the best horse in the race? So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I ended up with. I am playing a lot of tickets. If you guys go get the betting Bible, I'm playing a lot of different exactas. I'm playing one really nice trifecta, multiple angles into it. I get paid big time. We will get paid big time if Fiercest wins, but it also is not going to be the detriment of the day either if we get a little lucky.
Yeah. Finally, to what you just said with your wagering, it's funny. You were asking me earlier in the year, earlier in the week, how'd you feel that when Pharaoh, how'd you feel when Justified's talking like percentage chance to win? Those were horses that stood out that you didn't really have to get creative with. Play them. They're studs. I remember the 2015 and 2018 Derby. Shit, I didn't sweat that for a second. All that lead up, I was not worried one bit. This one, I'll be worried. That's the difference. And because we've seen the horrible races that cannot be explained, especially one.
Yeah.
You don't bet, you don't quote unquote max bet what you can to win, because you do know if he doesn't win this race, there's a good chance he's last, right? And you just never felt that way about American Pharaoh, Justify, and to a smaller degree, but still a much larger degree than Fierceness, California Chrome. This is my opinion, by the way. Not, you don't have to share it, everybody listening, but Pharaoh, Justify, and then Nyquist, California Chrome. I just didn't have a lot of worry. Thought this is going to happen. This one it's a little scarier for sure.
Well, the last thing I'll say about him is you got to know, and at this point, Pletcher's the best, one of the best in the game, one of the best ever to do it, and same can go with Johnny Velasquez, right? And so it's like they know at this point, like this horse is a nut job in some ways, and so like I feel like they're gonna do everything they can to make sure this is taken care of, and that if he loses, it's not because that he got, bad break or got jammed up, or, like you're going to at least have that horse in the position to win the race at the top of the stretch. And then past that, we'll see what happens. But speaking of, okay, so Fierceness, we've talked a lot about Fierceness. Let's go through some of these one by one here. And again, similar to the last one, Dornick at 17-1, just did a little touchdown from the 20-1 morning line. Sierra Leone at 5-1 off of the 3-1 second choice. We'll stop there. Sierra Leone, this is a horse that I don't know, man. Like maybe I feel like I've seen more people not like him, and more people like Forever Young, more people like Chasing Freedom, and it's like for whatever reason. Oh, by the way, more people liking Just a Touch than Sierra Leone. It's weird.
I was sitting there trying to be a wise guy about this, but end of the day, I put Sierra Leone second because I just thought, you know what? Like, what has he really done wrong? And yeah, hey, he might get a bad trip, this, that, the other. Look, a lot of these other contenders outside of Fierceness, they're closers, so they all might get kind of stopped. And if he does get stopped, he's probably not going to hit the board. But I think his class speaks for itself. And you're right. Like, and I know people are going to support Just a Touch, and I know they think the trip's going to be very, very good. And I agree. It's probably going to be a pretty good trip for him, but he just hasn't finished those races very strongly. That's the problem. So, but look, maybe, that's the day coming up Saturday will be the day for him. But at the end of the day, I kind of rounded back and said, you know what? This horse has been really good. I know Samich compares this horse to Tapatrice. At the end of the day, I don't think it's fair because Tapatrice was goofy. he just didn't have it all together mentally. I don't think this horse has any mental problems. I think it's just running style is his biggest problem for this specific race. And I don't know that his running style is a huge problem in a regular race, but this specific one, coming in, much like Fierceness, to be completely honest, coming in, we're going to need some luck as far as the trip goes.
But past that, it's like that's the way it is for any horse in this race.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, I think it's more so for Sierra Leone and some of these horses like Catching Freedom and Honor Marie, who are the kind of those deep closers typically. But yeah, that's the thing. I'll be honest, and we'll talk about Just a Touch in a second. I like Just a Touch. To be fair, I have a kind of a what do you want to call it? Almost like a safety wager with it, using him, because it's just like, you know what? He may be that horse that's getting the one that's like that Brad Cox horse that's like, oh yeah, like he was the one and he was the one all along. And so I have a safety bet with him. But with that said, I still like Sierra Leone better. I don't know how you watch that race and say, wow, I love Just a Touch for the Derby. No interest in Sierra Leone. I'll be honest, I don't understand it. And maybe someone can help me out. But I can see how you might like Just a Touch. Like, yeah, like that a tough pace and he's held on and like he should be getting better. Like, I get it. I'm not saying that. I just don't know how you watch that race and say, well, I don't like the winner that just cruised by him, but I do like the horse that got tired late. I don't get that.
I mean, I do. It's projected trip. The people are projecting that are against like a Samich. They're projecting this horse will be the horse that gets the brutal closing trip. And I think they're putting together, hey, 2-hole, no doubt. This is a strong candidate to be dead last the first time by the wire, which I would agree with. And I think they think, well, he's going to have to swing really wide or try to weave in and out and get lucky. And neither one's going to work out. I think that's kind of what they say, and I think at the end of the day, that could happen.
Yeah.
It could happen with the Catching Freedoms of the world. It could happen with Forever Young. It happened with a lot of them. Right. And if Sierra Leone is just one on the Honor Marie, who Samich loves, by the way, it could happen to him. He could get that trip, so
I will say
closers in the Derby, it's pick your poison sometimes.
I do think if you're talking head-to-head bets, give me Sierra Leone over Just a Touch, even though I do understand the logic that he is going to have a tougher trip. I just do think he's a better horse. I also think that Just a Touch is going to be the horse. If I'm like seeing it in my head, I think Just a Touch is the horse that, I don't know if Larry Colmus is calling it or whoever, but like, that he'll say first. Just a Touch is hit, in the lead, and then Fierceness is right there looming up or coming up. I think Just a Touch is going to have a shot at taking this thing the whole way. I don't necessarily think he is, but he could, and that's for. I do understand the logic there with Just a Touch. Dude, if it rains, by the way, Dornick, I don't know. Dornick. That's how I've always said it. If you want to sit here, I mispronounce by pretty much every horse name probably ever. Mystic Dan is a horse that could get a ton of action, 24-1 off of the 20-1, but could get a lot of action if the track were to come up sloppy. We've seen that before in the past. This is a horse that just, if you want to talk about fierceness, this is the horse from all the races, all the preps. Mystic Dan has put the second most impressive performance together in that Southwest that day. And by the way, it was in the slot.
Yep. Yeah, I think if you do get the monsoon, I think somebody said earlier in the show, you get that monsoon and all of a sudden, yeah, he becomes how could he not become more of a thought in everybody's mind? We do have Papa Dude on record. That was Wednesday. That's yesterday, saying he doesn't care if it does rain. Forget it. Not going to happen. So.
Well, I would be shocked. Let's put it that way, even if it does rain. But if it does, I mean, I would argue though, too, like, what's his best chance of winning? If it rains.
Sure.
That. All right. Catching Freedom at 8-1, right there, dead on his 8-1 morning line. This is the horse that I've seen more and more. I feel like that's kind of replaced the Sierra Leone as terms of like its fierceness or this horse. I'll have a lot of people that like Catching Freedom. Louisiana Derby winner, just is kind of that horse that maybe less dependent on like coming from the clouds as Sierra Leone is, but certainly does have that attribute in him to where he does his best running late. Pratt back aboard. This is a horse that's had several different jockeys. Pratt has stayed put to ride here. I know that's a big plus for you as well.
Sure. And I think he's the one that can have the closers. If he breaks well enough, he can sit a better trip than say Dornock or not Dornock, Sierra Leone, Anna Marie, maybe even Fair Young. Just assuming he's probably not going to break well because that's what they all do from UAE Derby. We'll talk about that in a second. But anyway, half joking there. But Catching Freedom, we've kind of seen him sit mid-pack before. So we'll just kind of see. But the last race, he did come from out of it. And when he's drawn inside like this, if he doesn't break very well, it's going to get, he's going to get shuffled back pretty hard.
Yeah, and that's a concern for several of these guys, that have these closers like Anna Marie, Catching Freedom, Sierra Leone. If you don't get the absolute perfect break with these, it's just like bam, pull back, bam, pull. Because the last thing you want to do with a closer that is get them in big time trouble early in the race, right? You want to, if it doesn't go well, you're not going to fight for that spot or that lead. You're just going to say, you know what, we're going to do the one run thing, hope it works out, hope we get there. So yeah, I'm with you. I do think Catching Freedom has been a little bit more tricky, I would say, like that first part of after they break. So he's going to have to earn his spot for sure, I feel like. And if he does get a good spot, I'm with you. He would be interesting, super interesting when they hit that. Because that's the thing. Like when you're one of these closers in the Derby, you want to be like closing is one thing, but you need to be in that final turn. You need to be in your move, right? Mm-hmm. You need to be going. You don't need to be waiting because you're never going to get there. So you need to be picking off horses. Go look at Mind That Bird. He was picking off horses well before they hit the top of the stretch. If you're going to be that far back, you're going to have to start making some moves early on. And can you sustain it? Mage did something similar as well. That kind of did that sustained run from pretty far back. All right. Here you go. Who was it? I don't know. Christopher Catalick. Catalick. I don't know. See, there you go. Just Steal, the other Justify horse in the race, and Anna Marie will group all those together here. Just Steal is a horse. We talked about Muth a lot earlier. Like, would it be that surprising to see him hit the board? I mean, we know Coach can pull a rabbit out of his hat. 31-1, 37-1 on Cadillac, and Anna Marie at 15-1. So Anna Marie getting some play.
Yeah, I mean, Just Steal should get that trip that you want. So I think his post draw is very good. He's got closers too. He's inside as well and outside with the 7. So that's good as well. So yeah, if he gets out of the gate well, gets a decent position, maybe he can hit the board at a big price. And like I said, Wise Guy horse, Anna Marie right now. Look, he's doing really well. He hit his progression. First race, second race was great. And if he does that again, look, he's got a big shot. If he gets through, he's gonna have to find some room. So I like Anna Marie quite a bit.
Shoddy, I guess that happens a lot these days still.
Catalytic converters.
Catalytic.
Yeah.
Catalytic. Mm-hmm. Catalytic. Is that how you say it?
Yep.
Catalytic. Thank you guys. I appreciate that. Listen, you know what? There's just too many names to worry about pronouncing. And plus, the horse is going to get one call in the race. So
probably.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Anna Marie, I mentioned this in the preview I did of Anna Marie, is he kind of feels like he's the poor man's version of Catching Freedom. I do like the way he's coming into the race. I think he's the one of those few horses in the race that I feel like we haven't seen the best of, but we might see the best of here. Has a horse that ran well and won the Jockey Club last year. Came off the layoff, Risen Star, didn't run super well. Louisiana Derby ran great to Catching Freedom. Just Catching Freedom was just a little bit better, but you could see the progression there. This horse could be ready to fire a big one. Again, it's all based on, and I want to make that very clear. This is all based on the fact that Fierceness isn't running his race, because let's just say Anna Marie runs a career best 101. He ran a 96 in the Louisiana Derby. Well, he might get second. He might get second to Fierceness, but that's it. So again, this is all kind of, when you say one of these horses could win, I very much believe it means Fierceness did not run. Just a Touch. We've talked about him just a little bit here. I know a lot of people like Just a Touch. Another Justify horse for Brad Cox. Flo has the mount. Where are you at? Where are you actually at with this horse? Do you think this horse is the goods? Do you think it's too soon? I mean, again, he went from a maiden special weight straight to the Gotham, straight to the Bluegrass, now straight to the Derby.
I think he's the most likely horse to have a great trip in the race. I would say that right off the bat. I think his post is great. The trip that he is capable of sitting is great. I just think he's not quite there. He's not quite talented enough based on what we've seen. And now if he sits that great trip and he moves forward a little bit, it does put him there. But I just think you go back, you watch that Bluegrass. I just think he should have put up a little bit better fight, and you go back, you watch the Gotham. I know sloppy track, one turn. It's still, he just doesn't finish that race very well. He just doesn't finish those races strong. You're going to have to finish strong, to win this one. And I just am skeptical that he can do it.
Yeah. The Gotham, definitely did not
No,
make that win, but that loss look very well. But yeah, I'm with you. I do think, you said it. I think he's gonna have a great trip, and I think again that's kind of my theory behind using him a little bit is just because if for whatever reason he gets brave and improves, and I mean a lot of ifs and ands, and fierceness doesn't run. I mean, definitely would not be surprised if this horse tried to get him there all the way. So.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to TO Password. I think that's a pass. Okay, gotta go to Forever Young. Forever Young. I mean, this is one. I don't know what we're gonna expect on the price. He's 8-1 currently, 10-1 morning line. I think that's more in line of the direction we're gonna go with this one. Maybe he ends up being like 6-1 somewhere in that department. Just because this is a horse, man. It's like everywhere you hear. It's like, John's he's just one of them, right? There's many I've heard. They love Forever Young, but yet the odds are going to be like 10 to 12-1. Like, well, something has to give, right? If everyone likes him, he's going to get bet. At what point is he playable for you? And I mean, what do you think his chances are winning?
Well, look, I think if he's 10, 12-1, it makes sense to play him. I mean, that's the right odds. I think, I was expecting might be 5 or 6. So I guess, again, it's weird because everybody seems to love him, but yet everybody thinks he's going to be a high price, like you said. So it's strange. I don't know. Look, I know John came on and talked about Randy Moss and the point he made about, UAE Derby runners are 0 for 19, but really when you take out the ones that sucked, it's 0 for 3, and then you take out the ones where they didn't get their desired trips. And my only kind of, not even a pushback, but my only kind of thought past that is, yes, there have been horses come over that really shouldn't have been here. So I agree with that part of it. It just feels like they always get weird trips when they come over here. Like weird shit happens to them. And there's really no reason to think it's going to happen to Forever Young. But there was no reason to think Thundersnow was going to do that. There was no reason to think Mendelssohn was going to not do anything. There was no reason to think Dermot Sotogate was going to get a wild trip. It's just weird that they all do. And I don't really know why that is. I don't know if it's different styles of how you break from the gate, or they're just all the traveling has them a little flat-footed. You could only speculate. I don't really know. All I know is it just seems to happen over and over and over. And I was, with my dad the other day, I was talking, I was like, are you going to be shocked if you look up and you'd be like, okay, when you're kind of that cavalry charge, like, okay, where's Forever Young? Oh my God, he's 18th, 15th. Why is he doing that? What happened? Because that just seems like the story for these horses. I think it's interesting. He hasn't fired that crazy UAE Derby race that we've seen others. So there might be something to the point of they're building him up for this specific race. So maybe he fires that crazy race here. I can see that. I think that makes sense logically. But look, he's just going to have to get that trip that so many before him have desired to get and just haven't gotten him.
Yeah, and I think the biggest question or biggest issue for Forever Young is that because I'm kind of with you. I do feel like they are like nothing's been like super impressive, but it's been good enough. But you got to think like they're smart enough to know like they're trying to win a derby with Japan's trying to win a derby, and
Yeah.
that's what they've been trying to build to, right? So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him run really well. I think the biggest issue is at what point in the race does he get to run?
Yeah.
Because the concern of the race for him is just from the start to like halfway on the backside, like where will he be? What kind of trouble did he encounter? Again, I people want to make light of it. I don't. The kickback is a real concern, especially if we do have any sort of heavy track. Just way too many question marks with that kind of stuff. And listen, I'll be honest with you. I think since 2015, I'm not going to go further back, but since 2015, he's the third best horse to come out of the UAE Derby. And we know how the other two went. And I don't think he might end up being better. I don't think he is right now. And I know that's a big time disagreement with other people, but I don't know. Like if you could tell me that he's going to be in third place or fourth place when they hit the final turn, I might have a lot of interest.
Yeah.
But how did he get there? What did he encounter before? I don't know. There's just too many issues with me for him.
I remember back when to me, my opinion, the best horse from the UAE Derby to ever come over here was Thunder Snow. I believe that he was incredible in the UAE Derby. He won 2 Dubai World Cups.
Yeah,
he was the best.
Yeah.
And that year, John had me convinced. We put him on top of one of our tries. Thankfully we had Always Dreaming on top as well, but we put Thunder Snow on top because I had seen it with my own 2 eyes, races that just jumped off the screen. And I thought this one could do it. Maybe it's going to be Saturday that he runs the race that jumps off the screen. I fail to see anything that matches what like a Thunder Snow did. But look, I do think there's something to the logic. And I think the point where John really got me is when he talked about how that trainer is very good about getting them to pop on the biggest days. And if the trainer is being very conservative about bringing him along and has him ready to really fire what he truly is in Kentucky, that kind of checks out to make sense, right? That part of that whole show really stuck with me. So I can't sit here and say I'm going to be shocked if he wins. What I can tell you is I personally can't do it. I can't bet him to win.
Yeah, and listen, I think I've used him on top of some things. I've used him underneath. I'm not against Forever Young. I think he's got a big time chance. But I do think that and I've been on record saying this multiple times, I think until we see a horse prep over here first, I think that's the most clear path to victory. To get to I'm talking about those international horses, those kind of horses coming over until we see them prep and then go in, and then just until I see it, right? I'm very much okay with not betting them until I see it, and so that's kind of where I'm at with him. But again, I do think he's a solid horse and could win if everything goes right for him. Track Phantom, kind of a horse that, he's an interesting one, dude, because like he's not really done a lot wrong other than just maybe doesn't want to go this long, but he's been solid every race. Really, especially his last 3, he's ran 3 straight 90 plus buyers. He does this thing. Sometimes he comes up a little short, but if anything else, he's going to be a big time pace presence in the race, right?
Yeah, blinkers on for him. So you're going to I would assume you're going to see him kind of fly out there. They're just trying to get him to finish better. He just is not, his running style is correct. Like it's what you want to see from a horse. He doesn't back up, but he just doesn't finish with a whole lot of power. So they're just hoping that's the case, that they can get him to finish.
Currently at 48-1, so not gotten a lot of play yet. 30-1 on West Saratoga. Do you have any interest in him?
Not really. Good story. Hope they do well, but no.
Another horse that ran and won that race, the JR Stakes. Number 14, Endlessly. I don't know about you, but I have a little bit of interest in him. I'd be somewhat surprised, but I also made sure to use him underneath because he has been very good those two starts at, the two starts on synthetic.
Yeah, I just think the trainers kind of tipped the hand on this one. He doesn't want to run him here. I do think the horse has talent. If he kind of takes to the dirt, maybe he can pass some horses and make an impact here. That's just kind of how I look at him.
49
I think end of the day, I think this horse is just a turf horse.
Would be interesting, guys, if we do have some major rain situation and the track is playing off. He could move up on that sloppy surface, being those turf horses. Synthetic do tend to do quite well on the slop. But yeah, big time price at 49-1. Domestic Product, another horse that's getting, I would say, somewhat hyped up at 31-1 currently off the 30-1. Irad Ortiz. Chad Brown. A lot of talk on this one. John mentioned this horse several times on the podcast. I'm not totally there really with it, but I'll let you give you your thoughts.
I'm not there at all. I'm not. I can't. I can't get there with him. If he, I mean, now look, if you want to play him underneath on something, yeah, whatever. You can play a bunch of them underneath. But as he wins, I'll be very surprised.
No, thanks. One thing I wanted to from that talk was those paces were so slow, and then he closed it. Well, his closing numbers would be fast because they were going so slow. I just think those numbers are skewed a little bit. From those. All right, let's go Grandmo the first. I think it's both of us pretty good pass there. Kind of snuck in there on the coattails of Fierceness in the Florida Derby, finishing a distant third. We've talked all about Fierceness. We'll run back to him as we close this thing out. Stronghold. Haven't talked about Stronghold too much here, Alterman. He's one of those that just I don't feel like he's getting a ton of respect because he's the the West Coast, one of the West Coast, the main West Coast horse, the Sandy Derby winner. But he's not Baffert, and it's D'Amato, and it's he hasn't really ran improved races. He's just running kind of his race. Maybe he isn't beating much out there. Do you think he could continue to kind of under or over deliver, I guess, and maybe hit the board here?
Oh man, it's tough. I've been back and forth with him. I ended up not playing him. He is getting better. He is improving. I just think he's going to have to improve again. Right. I don't think the post helped him at all either. I can't do it.
Listen, I used him, I think, I want to say I maybe used him in the third spot, but if he won, if Stronghold wins this race, that means that multiples, and I'm not just talking Fierceness, I'm talking 5 to 10 horses don't fire. That's what it would have to, in my opinion. Resilience, the horse that I guess is one in the group that you could argue is making his kind of he's making the improvements as we get to the race. Winner of the Wood Memorial. The Wood Memorial, obviously not a great race this year. Sierra Leone did beat this horse by multiple lengths in the Risen Star. So did Track Phantom. So did Catching Freedom. Thoughts on Resilience? Do you think he is the up-and-coming horse out of the bunch?
Yeah, I do. I'm going to keep my eyes on him after this race. I thought if he drew really well, I was going to use him, and I thought maybe he could make a play underneath. But the draw is pretty rough for him. There's no doubt, and I just think he's getting better. But I just can't quite get there that he's going to win this race. I think down the road we're going to see him run well and win a big one. I don't think it's this one.
I honestly, I don't know if I would even go that far with him, to be quite honest. I don't know that he's that good. Maybe he is. Didn't really see an improvement off of the Risen Star. It just happened to be that was kind of a garbage field versus what we saw. So I still think he's a nice horse. Good that he got in, but I don't expect a ton from him. Number 20, Society Man, another Gargan horse was second in that Wood Memorial. One just broke the maiden before that in maiden special weight out there. Has has won on synthetic. It gets to, on slop, gets to Tory. No, I don't have much there.
No, I mean, a shock that he got into this thing 91 to 1 plus some in the wood, got second. You remember the wood, I mean, other than resilience, it looked pretty bad behind it, and he was able to do it. Happy for them, happy for the connections that they're getting in. It's a rich strike type horse. If he wins, you're going to be looking like, wow, I can't believe it happened again type of horse.
Yeah, he was 107 to 1 by 106.75 in the wood. So, yeah. And finally, Epic Ride, the 21 horse who is getting into the gate due to the Encino scratch, made his first start on the dirt off of the synthetic in the bluegrass and was really good on synthetic, right? Encino beat him in that Battaglia, but ran a really nice race. The bluegrass, again, was up there kind of helping set the fractions, was up close to that pace. Faltered a little bit late, but you know what? Didn't completely embarrass himself at a big price at 51 to 1. Now he ends up in this race, Halterman. Is there anything that you can say? Maybe he's a horse that takes him a long ways. He's a pace presence. I mean, obviously he's going to have a lot to chew here because of drawing out to that 21 spot.
Yeah, that's a problem. Tough draw. But I've been on record saying, look, I like this horse. I think he's doing pretty darn well. I thought he ran okay in the bluegrass, for first start on the dirt, and I think he can improve. From that spot, it's gonna be tough, right? It's gonna be really tough to work out a trip. That is going to be a little bit of the problem. And honestly, he's another one. He's going to have to improve, after that bluegrass race, even though we kind of liked it for his first start on the synthetic. If you liked Encino, maybe you go to Epic Ride now because Epic Ride was second to Encino in the Battaglia. But end of the day, I kind of view Epic Ride and Resilience kind of the same. They're going to have to move up. If they could get perfect trips, they would have a shot, but if they don't get perfect trips or ideal trips, I'm not sure they're quite good enough.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. Right, 55 to 1, 60 on Society Man. Resilience is 28 to 1. Stronghold, by the way, 39 to 1. That's a pretty high number for a horse that you're stancing in the Derby winner. All right, let's put a bow on this, Halterman. Let's go through. Obviously, guys, if you want our full picks, all our plays, not just for the Derby, not just for the Oaks, but every single race on both Oaks and Derby Day, 27 races to be exact. Go get the betting Bible, the Kentucky Derby, Kentucky Oaks betting Bible, available right now, 21 pages at racingdudes.com. Gets every pick that we are going to play, us personally, on both days, including top 4 picks from not just us, but the entire team at racingdudes.com. So fan favorite, Dr. Miranda, Papa Dude, Samich, Magic, Benny's on there. We all got picks. There. So if you want kind of a consensus of how we're going to play each and every race, it's all there. The betting Bible, Halterman. But give me your top pick, which I think I know it is, and then give everybody like that one horse that's not in your top 4 necessarily, but might be a decent to big number that you might have some interest playing on Saturday.
Yeah, top pick for me is going to be Fierceness. I've described it like this, and again, this is my personal opinion. You don't have to have the same opinion of I do, but this is my personal opinion. His best race will win, and I think it's a total coin flip that he's going to show up with his best race. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you that he's going to show up with his A effort, but I know in my opinion, again, his A effort, I feel like is way better than the rest of the horses. So if I have that opinion, then the fair odds for me personally, if I think it's a coin flip, he shows up, and if he shows up, he wins. That's even money. Last time I checked, a coin flip is a 50-50 proposition, right? So that, to me, his fair odds are even money. He's going to be 2 to 1, 5 to 2. I had to go Fierceness on top. I just think, I am totally fine with being embarrassed and he runs last. Again, I don't have a crystal ball. If I did and I knew that was how he's going to show up, I obviously wouldn't pick him, but
I think one thing that you guys can all, and whether you're betting against him or you're betting for him, unlike last year and unlike a lot of years, you do know you're picking the best horse, at least the most talented horse of the race. Like you said, what happens, right? We have no idea, right? Past that. But like last year, it's like, well, we picked Tapatrice, but you know what? We don't know. We didn't was he the best horse of the race? I mean, no, maybe, but that's who we picked. You know, so it's like this year feels like, okay, no matter what, I know, like, there's really no argument, in my opinion, that Fiercest is the best horse in the race.
Well, and I'll piggyback off of it and say the second part of it is, if Muth was in this race, I would have a stronger feeling, right? Because he's a horse I like. The problem is, if I jump off Fierceness and go to Sierra Leone, I know Sierra Leone has been way more consistent. That's not what I'm saying, but he has his own issues. Then all of a sudden, you've got a horse breaking from the 2-hole that's going to be last when they hit the wire. That's an issue all of itself. I know a lot of people are like, well, I'm not backing Fierceness because who knows? I'm going to take Sierra Leone. Yeah, I know in a normal race, he's been very consistent. But in this specific race, you're going to need just as much as luck as if you're betting Fierceness, in my opinion. It's that trip it's a 50-50 proposition. It's kind of like if you bet like no, Mo Donegal is the one that makes sense. It's like he was probably the best horse that was a closer that year in the Derby, and he got a bad trip. He was really wide, and he just couldn't make it up. That could happen to Sierra Leone, and so that was the thing. So I was like, yeah, Catching Freedom, kind of the same thing. You worry about trip. Is he good enough? Stuff like that. And so I just couldn't find that alternative that made me feel good about it. That was the other part of it. So like say Epicenter was in this year's version, I'd probably be on Epicenter, right? Really consistent. I know he's going to show up. Maybe he hasn't ran that top figure like Fierceness has, but I know what he's going to do. I don't have it this year, right? I just don't. And I think that's why people are gravitating to Just a Touch, because they can see the trip, and I can too, but I don't think he's very good.
Yeah. That's just it. Like there's like, I would even argue that like, even though you're right, Sierra Leone is going to have issues and have to overcome issues just like Catching Freedom. But at the same time, like I still have confidence that he's going to run, quote unquote, his race, right? That he's going to pick him off late. And, if it's too much or he gets trouble or whatever, that's what happens. But I have probably more confidence, or at least just as much confidence, that he'll run his race. Versus where it's Fierceness, it's like, well, if he runs his race, then it's lights out. It's over. Yeah. But we haven't seen Sierra Leone just put up absolute stinkers like we have with him. And so that is the concern, but it's also like, is it good enough? And it's not, right? If Fierceness runs his race. So I have seen a few comments. We'll at least touch on them, I guess, since technically there's only other one horse, number 22, Magatu. Yeah. If he were to get in, last ran in the Bluegrass, finished 5th, well beaten. I honestly don't know how he even got in the gate or how he's even on the Alsos.
He is Rich Strike.
Even he might be worse.
Him winning would be like when Rich Strike won. You would just be like,
he might be worse.
Yeah.
I mean, he was not. It's been. Listen, guys, he has not won a race since his maiden special weight in November on the synthetic at Gulfstream Park. And that's like bad November or bad Gulfstream Park.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last time he won a race. He hasn't even sniffed winning a race since. In fact, the last 4 got beat by 9 in the allowance. In the Battaglia, he got beat by 7. He got beat by, he finished 8th in the rest of the way. He finished 4th, finished 5th in the Bluegrass. Like, listen, it would have to be an epic meltdown of even more than Rich Strike proportions in order for that to happen.
Yep, I agree.
All right. So I'm guessing it's not the 22. Who's a horse that you might be interested in playing in some regard? Again, we're not going to give away all the picks. Go get the betting Bible, but give people a horse that they might want to look at closer, depending on where the odds are on Saturday.
Well, I think Honor Marie is the one that makes the most sense. I just think you look at this horse. If you get that progression again, I think he's right there with a chance, and he's right there at least with the other closers that are coming in. And if you work out a better trip, I think he'll be right there with a chance to hit the board, or if Fierceness doesn't fire, maybe he can win in a huge number. So that my longer shot is definitely Honor Marie.
I mean, listen, I'm not going to include some of the major ones like Fierceness Sierra Leone, Catching Freedom, Forever Young. I think those are all horses that are going to get bet. I like Honor Marie too. That's where I would go. Since you mentioned it, I'll throw out. Honestly, Just a Touch. Endlessly has grew on me more and more as we've gone into it. Do I think he can win? No, but do I think he can like get into this thing and get a huge piece of, or at least make it the thing go like a massive price at 49-1 right now? Yes, I do. But Just a Touch, I think is, Honor Marie is 15-1, Just a Touch 13-1. I think Just a Touch is just that horse that you got to be careful with in this race. I don't like him a ton. I mean, I definitely have him in my top, say, 8, but I do, like you said, I do see the path where he could win, and it wouldn't be that shocking if he did. And so for that reason, I do have I'm going to play him on top, basically. That's it, but that's it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think Just Steel is another one that, I mean, at that price, he's worth a shot. I mean, this is a horse that's been hitting the board behind some of your main contenders. Well, I guess one of them, because Muth isn't here, but, hitting the board behind Mystic Dan, hitting the board behind Catching Freedom. I mean,
yeah.
Could he hit the board behind whoever? Yeah, good.
Yeah, well, if you want, I mean, Just Steel is one of those horses that certainly could get into this thing and kind of make a mess of it, really, as far as the tries and stuff, because he's one that really he's kind of shown up or not shown. I mean, he's, for the most part, he's shown up every time. The Rebel was not so good, but past that, I mean, he's got second behind Muth. He got second to Mystic Dan that day when Mystic Dan freaked. Second to Catching Freedom in the Smarty Jones. I mean, these are all horses that are, in the race, right? So, if he were to run well, I do think he could definitely get a piece of this thing. So,
yeah.
All right, guys, that is a look at the Kentucky Derby 150 running this Saturday. Make sure you tune in to, we'll have a live show going, I believe, on Friday and Saturday here on the channel at YouTube. So make sure you give us a like, give us a follow. You'll be alerted as soon as when we schedule it out, and then when we go live as well. If we don't talk to you again before that, guys, good luck in the Oaks. Good luck in the Derby. Man, I'm starting to hear man, I might have to. We'll see. I'm not going to do any changes yet, but Just Steel is one that I'm concerned that I left off on my underneath, of course, on my underneath. But
right,
because I do think there is a pretty clear. I think, I don't know. The Asmussen angle is I know he's been riding well, but this is what you call going in the deep end.
You talking about Keith?
Yeah.
Oh, he'll be fine. I if you're worried about that, I would not be worried.
You think he'll be fine in the Kentucky Derby?
1,000%.
First Derby.
Yeah. I would not worry one bit about Keith Asmussen. Not even a tiny bit.
Okay, there you go.
Honestly, I would rather have him than half the riders.
But more than Ben Curtis?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Look, I watched an interview with that kid. He's not blown away. Trust me. He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Well, one thing about it is it's not, well, the day itself and the events, it's not new to him, right? It's been in his family forever. So, there you go. Shout out to Dr. Miranda for a top 10 horse race. Well, I don't know what she tweeted out, but
Magic sent it to us.
Oh, was that the one? Okay, yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah,
I didn't read it. I was let me see what it said here. Now that we're
said, how hot is it at Churchill Downs right now? I feel like I'm sitting between Dale Roman's balls in the sauna.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's glad that was on her count, not the Racing Dudes account. That's why we got her credentialed.
Say reason number 1,000 why I'm not on Twitter anymore.
Dude, I tell you what, I don't miss Twitter at all. At all. I get on there like once in a blue moon, and honestly, the only reason I ever get on it is to look something up. Like, I might put in like, fierceness, or just to see what the updates are on him and everything, because people are talking, chatting about him or whatever. But I don't look at our notifications. I don't look at what we've tweeted out. I love it. It's the best thing ever.
It's a very toxic environment. No, and what I've learned, no matter what, like people are like, oh, horse racing Twitter so bad. It's anything. Twitter's those people. Every group of people have their people that are just crazy, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, that's we'll leave it at that. All right, guys, that's all the time we have. Check us out at racingdudes.com for, of course, our free picks and our premium selections, including the Racing Dudes betting Bible. That's right. The betting Bible is available right now at racingdudes.com. All our Kentucky Derby plays, all our Oaks plays, every race on the card, both days. We have plays in that betting Bible. You get it for free, by the way, if you are a subscriber. So now would be a great time to become a subscriber. Monthly subscriber starts as low as $70 a month. You get picks for every day, every track, every pick you want. On top of that, you'll get the betting Bibles for free. Now's a great time, like I said, because it is a monthly package. You would also get roped into the Preakness, so you get 2 Bibles within that subscription for $70. So go get your hands on that right now and start handicapping for both races. I should also mention, guys, if you're looking for a place to bet, look no further than Twin Spires. That's right. We've partnered up with Twin Spires for the run into the Kentucky Derby. They're matching right now, 100% match up to $200 if you use promo code DUDES, DUDES, up to $200 match on your first deposit. So just go sign up and use that promo code. You have to minimum deposit of $20. But all you got to do is enter promo code DUDES and get 100% match on that first deposit. And of course, you can play the Kentucky Derby with twinspires.com. The Magic Mike Show, guys, if you haven't checked out the Magic Mike Show, go check them out. They did the Kentucky Derby Pick 5 sequence that covers races 8 through 12. John White interview. If you guys have not listened to the John White interview, you have to go back and listen to that. It's a podcast, the Blinkers Office episode right before this one. Make sure you go listen to that. It's amazing. He's awesome, as always. You can follow us on Twitter at @racing_dudes, Instagram and Facebook, as well as TikTok. You can find all episodes of Blinkers Off by visiting our podcast page on the site. Apple Podcasts, all the places you listen to, we are there, as well as our YouTube channel. Make sure you go give us a like, give us a follow. And, we have a ton of content on there for the Kentucky Derby as well as the Oaks. And we'll have live coverage tomorrow and Saturday as well. Yeah, Shotty's always in charge of our Discord. Get Discord. Go join the Discord. If you haven't already, go join the Discord. You can go any of our link trees you see on any of our social media platforms. You can just click that, find the Discord, and it's free. It's just a community basically of it's like the better Twitter version, meaning it doesn't have a bunch of well, it does have some idiots on there, but we control it pretty well, and it's a bunch of like-minded people that are on Discord and just talking about a range of topics. So join the community over on the Discord. Halterman, final thoughts, because as we head into Oaks and Derby Saturday.
Oh man, I'm glad it's here. I think that's kind of the thing. The grind of really Sunday this year through Thursday is a huge grind, and I'm glad that it's here. And now Friday, Saturday we're going to have a ton of fun, and we'll be live with you for the Oaks. We'll be live with you for the Derby, so that'll be a good time as well. So now's the fun part. I got the Veasan show coming up Saturday morning as well, 9 to 11. So now's the you've done all the handicapping, you've done all the work. Now you just get to see how they do, see how they run.
Yeah, that would be the one thing I would leave everyone with is that, and obviously the betting Bible does a great job of demonstrating that. And if you don't want to buy that, or you don't want that's fine, but just make sure you go into the 2 days with a plan. It's just like the Breeders' Cup, these 2-day events. Like, it's easy to get excited and maybe hammer a horse more than you intended to, or not bet a horse as much as you wanted to, or because you lost a couple of races earlier. Go into it like the betting Bible does, like exactly how you're going to play every race, and then that way exactly what your loss could be and what your potential, and that you have bullets saved for Saturday. Whenever we handicap this Bible, we take into the account the 2 days, right? It's like, well, I really love this horse on Saturday, so I know I need this many bullets for this one. I don't need as much now on Friday because of that or whatever. You know, so you got to look at it kind of as a big picture versus kind of each day or even race by race. So that would be my advice. Hey, we got good news from Kevin. Tell Papa Dude that he's got a big screen TV in I guess we're calling it the bar area. I was thinking of the waiting area, like where we were at, but the bar area. So that's good. I still believe Papa Dude will have something to say about that, but that's better.
Yeah. What I want to know if we can somehow get into this wedding, because I think Kevin B lives up towards Saratoga. After the Belmont, if we can't go to the wedding, maybe and again, not the wedding itself, but maybe if they're having the reception / after party, maybe we can go to this. That's my goal.
First of all, I'm surprised me especially was not asked to be his best man. Like that to me is a slap in the face. But two, we didn't even get an invite, neither one of us. So that, that kind of shows you where we rank. That's doable. We can work this out.
Well, listen, I have no interest in being in the wedding or going to the wedding or going to really a reception that would be mild. But if we're talking after Belmont post party, I would have big time interest in that.
It would all depend on if there's an open bar or not for me. I assume Kevin's, if the future wife is making him have it on Belmont Day, surely he could at least get an open bar set up.
I would think. Yeah. It would be disappointing if he couldn't.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if I'm going to pay for my booze, well, I'm probably open bar after party included. That's what I'm talking about. Kevin.
I mean, I would go. And I think I am going to go. I'm going to find out where it's at, one way or the other.
Yeah, we're going. We're just going to go. Yeah, you've seen Wedding Crashers, right?
Right.
We'll just show up. We'll find out where Kevin B is at, and don't put Papa Dude in charge, please.
No, don't call him. No.
All right, guys, that's a wrap for Blinkers Off. It's been a good one here. This is it. Kentucky Derby, Kentucky Oaks this weekend, Friday, Saturday. Like you said, the bets are in, the picks are in. Now we just got to see how they will run. Good luck to everybody playing. Again, join us tomorrow and Saturday for our live coverage for both the Oaks and the Derby. Until next time, guys, good luck in the Oaks. Good luck in the Kentucky Derby.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Blinkers Off. Join our horse racing community at racingdudes.com and follow us on Twitter at racing_dudes. Want to make money betting horses? Bet with the Racing Dudes.